This is Conversations with Women in Sales, an award-winning podcast created by Barbara Giamanco, who hosted the first 67 episodes. Listen to interviews with amazing women about their journeys in their sales careers, often discussing sales leadership tips, ideas, and strategies. We aim to inspire women to consider a sales career and for some women to grow into sales leadership. Men, we appreciate your allyship. And now, your host, Lori Richardson.
I am here today with Keating, and Karen is a strategic account director at Salesforce. And Karen, you and I have known each other for quite some time. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I was trying to remember, what year did we meet? Was it 2016?
It very well could have been
2015. I remember coming to an event that you were hosting in Boston, and you had me speak. So I must have been at
Yeah, it was our Rev It Up event. Yeah, absolutely. That brings
Burlington or Reading or something. I don't know.
It brings back some great memories for sure. And we'll talk a little bit about your journey because you have been in the sales, B2B sales space for some time. And obviously you must like it. And so I want to hear about what you've liked about your roles. And first, though, I want to go back to when you were graduating from Cornell in economics. What did you think you were going to do after that? What was your plan?
I actually proactively bombed my interviews on campus with Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, so I could be a ski bum and moved to Colorado. I had gone to Vail the year before as a senior in high school, visiting my brother, who was ski racing D1 at the University of Colorado Boulder. And my spring break was in Vail with my parents and my brother. And I was like, this is nirvana. So my mom said, when you graduate, you can do what you want. So I graduated and I stayed home for the summer in upstate New York. But then I packed my car and drove out west with my best friend from high school. And we landed in Vail, and I was a coach because I have a ski racing background at Ski Club Vail and waited tables at the Chart House for 2 years. So that was what my. However, my sales career started because my ski coach from Cornell had said, you've got to get into sales. He worked at, he was a broker or something.
Yeah.
You could sell ice to the Eskimos. So when I came back east after my 2 years, my mom was mortified, as you can imagine. 3-year degree, ski bum, right? Not a good match.
Yeah.
And I was staying with my parents. They have a little cottage on a lake in upstate called Rushford Lake, water skiing. It was like a great morning. And I'd signed up to have an interview with a temp agency. And that was Unisys. And it was with the director of marketing to be his executive assistant. I did no research. I just rolled in, and he met me and he said, you should be on my sales team. And I didn't know what they sold. I was like, okay. And the next thing I know, I met all these people, and 2 hours later, I left with an offer. I started.
You got into tech sales.
And so I got into tech sales, and it was so fun. And I was just so good at it. It was great.
That is so wonderful. So wonderful. And then you progress, when I met you were at insightsales.com, I believe.
That was 2014, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were doing big deals and, you were there for a number of years. But where were you between then?
After Unisys, I
wanted to Oracle, right?
I wanted to go to Oracle. There was no job. So I applied for a job that I didn't want, and I got a meeting with the sales manager. And I said, you need to hire me as a salesperson. He said, well, I don't have an open position. And I said, well, you need to create one because I will change your life. I will be so good. And 3 months later, I was working at Oracle. So I created a space there and started at Oracle in Rochester, New York, working on Xerox and Kodak. It was great.
Wow. And where did you get that confidence to say, you know what, you need to create a role for me?
Yeah, I think it came from a combination. My mom is probably my inspiration. She's fearless, and she just she's just really approachable, but also determined.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, my background is very humble. My parents were school teachers. I had very little growing up.
Yeah.
And my mom used to say to me, don't stand in line, move to the front of the line. And I think
Wow.
that was the message that was always in my head when I wanted to go after something, because a lot of people want to go after things, but if you don't do it, it's just an idea, right? You have to implement it and figure out a plan.
Funny how much that influences our lives, right? How we're raised and what we're told.
Oh, I think so much of a person's skills or success is determined by how they felt about themselves in their childhood years.
So what do you think when people say women are not confident enough or something?
They met the wrong woman.
Yeah, because I think that what I have found, and I onboarded a lot of women and men, more men than women, obviously, because it's in sales. What I found in onboarding the SDR role, was that women just verbalize it more and that men just keep their mouth shut. So if they're anxious, a woman might say, oh, I got to call Karen Keating now. She's been at Salesforce a while. I do this and that, and kind of explain their fears verbally, where I think men are quiet about it, but the sales manager will say, oh, wow, she's not very confident. That's what I found. But I just, most people will say that the data show that women are more anxiety ridden when it comes to, feeling strong about themselves. And I don't know, the jury's out.
I've seen some data. I think McKinsey did a study where it said women, if they apply for a position, unless they're 60 or 75% or 80% match where the other, are male gender, if they're I don't know. And I don't know where that comes. I can't speak from my own personal journey, but I've never been afraid.
Yeah. And that came from Hewlett Packard, actually, HP. And it really wasn't a study. It was an internal conversation. And a lot of people use it as a data point, but other people have written about that. And I read an article in Harvard Business Review about a woman that did research on that and found that women just don't want to waste people's time. So if I'm applying for a job and I don't meet all the criteria, and this is what you said you need from me, I'm not going to apply, because why would I apply if I don't? So what we've tried to do is teach employers to change their lists. Don't have 100 items, 100 bullet points, or 50 bullet points about what someone needs to do. Have less bullet points and a disclaimer that says, if you don't meet exactly the requirements, please apply anyway. And that will get more women to apply, actually. But I believe, I like the research that shows that a lot of women, I feel the same way. Like, why would I want to waste your time if you needed all these things? And I can't meet them all.
Yeah.
Interesting. Something to think about. And so now you went to Yext and now you're at Salesforce, right?
I came to Salesforce. It'll be 2 years this month. I'm like 2 weeks away from my 2nd-year anniversary.
Oh, that's so great. And do you call on enterprise-sized companies still, or
Yes, I've never, weirdly, I guess in the beginning when I worked for Unisys, I called on small financial institutions. But after that, it's always been enterprise or strategic accounts. I've never played in the small sandbox. And it's a different skill set too, because
what do you need to be good? What do you need to be good in strategic account and enterprise? What skill set?
So I have a skiing background. So I think everything I learned in sales is from skiing. So a complex sale is like a journey, right? It's a long game, where an SMB account, because there's fewer people participating in the decision making, like you could put them all in a Prius, where in a strategic account, it's going to be like a Boeing 747 plus shadow influencers that you don't even meet.
Right.
So you have to be able to navigate. I'm not saying that some of the small deals we take down don't take the same level of effort, but I'm just saying it's a different, because it's like a quick in and out. in a SMB account just because there's fewer people to talk to.
Yeah.
I think that's the main difference is like the quantity of direct relationships that you have to build or indirect that you have to influence. I call them shadow buyers because you don't meet them. And I learned a lot in my time selling B2C. So when I relocated back from the UK, I had really young children and I didn't want to be on the road. So I sold for Sotheby's. So I worked in real estate for luxury real estate.
Nice.
And I immediately built my book of business and people were like, what is she doing? But I brought my B2B skills to the table where I would sit the husband and wife down or the couple and get them to agree on the 3 things that they both had to have, whether that was like a main floor master bedroom or a 4-car garage or ski in, ski out. And I wouldn't put them into my car and show them properties until we knew exactly what we were focused on. And some days I could flip a sale in a day because they would find exactly what they wanted and then they would want to buy it.
Yeah, I actually know several women who have left B2B sales roles and are doing really well in real estate.
Yeah.
So,
But that was great because when I came back to B2B, I understood the shadow buyer more because I never really thought about it when I worked, my previous B2B experience.
and that's hidden buyer that you haven't heard about.
Or it's the boyfriend, the uncle, the whatever that tells them, don't do this, don't do that, so you have to. I can remember sitting with one buyer who had been unsure of a purchase. And in real estate, there's deadlines, right? So it was coming up to the 5 o'clock deadline where he'd either commit or withdraw. And he wanted to meet at the house and get in again to take another look. And I met him there with his wife. And I said, listen, no more. You've seen it like a dozen times. You need to go home, have a scotch, think about what you want, and let me know. Either way, I don't care. No more. Like in our world now, it'd be like, I need a reference call.
Right.
I need to talk to my boss. You just say, time out.
Yeah.
You think about what you really want. And now they went through the purchase. He's still, when I see him in the coffee shop, he's, oh my God, thank you so much. I got what I wanted.
That's so great. That's so great. I know I had a hidden buyer when I bought my first house. I was 27 at single mom and I had my sales career, which is how I could afford to do it. And my hidden buyer, I had friends who were pretty wealthy in town and the husband, the wife and the husband were friends at hockey. My son played hockey, youth hockey, and he was with a bank. And so I was getting coached by them, and at one point we invited the realtor to come to their house in the gated neighborhood and, just to and it was interesting, but definitely if they would have just taken me at face value, like this young single mom, what does she know? But they didn't. And that was a good thing. So yeah, it's important to know who the whole buying team is, right? Yeah. Not just the ones you see.
Okay.
So what advice do you have? You've been in a male majority world in tech.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more women, less women? Do you have advice for women who want to get or stay into tech?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely see more women than when I first started.
Yeah.
And I would say at Salesforce, we definitely have a much more diverse, group of women, not just as individual contributors, but also as sales leaders.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. Like Accenture, we have targets, and I'm on the Salesforce Women's Network internally. I'm on that as a global growth officer. And I would say that my advice to people who are, starting or in the middle, if you know what you want, you just have to plan for it. And that could mean, having a mentor, finding a mentor within your organization or externally, or hiring a, executive leadership coach. I just went back to Cornell last year and got my executive leadership certificate for women.
Right.
And it was a great refresher for me. And it was something that, because I wasn't traveling, was possible because it was quite a heavy lift. complete it. And I did it in, 90 days. So
Wow. Good for you.
yeah, I would say you just have to go after what you want and don't be afraid. Like gender doesn't mean they should never, I think, put the gender label on what they can or cannot do.
Yeah.
Right? What do you want? Like people need to ask themselves, like, what is going to make me happy? And for me, being an individual contributor has made me very happy.
Me
And
too. I was always an individual contributor.
I like being at the front lines in the messy stuff, navigating the highs and lows. And people be like, oh my God, my executive sponsor just left. I'm like, I've closed deals when they've left 3 times. Like it is, just don't expect. If you don't expect it, you're naive. Like nothing's going to stay the same.
Yeah. Do you think you have a book in you?
I do. It's on my list.
Okay.
So
I would love to be supportive of that idea because I believe, you're talking like it's no big deal. Oh, I just do this and do that. But you have probably some amazing tips and stories to share that other people, men and women, would probably hugely benefit from.
yeah, one of my favorite books is, well, the section of the book is the Dave Rudnitsky playbook, who I've had the pleasure to work with a few times, and he's just amazing. And it's in Behind the Cloud, which is Mark Benioff's book. And
Yep.
it's 81. It's like his 10 things. So I have it written on a little piece of paper on my desk. I have it, probably the page on the book is dog-eared, but one of the things he talks about is get your face in the place, right? So right now, getting your face in the place is more challenging. But when I worked in my last, we used like video technology.
Yeah.
So actually go to their website, show them what we uncovered in search, and then take them to a best practice website. Meanwhile, your face is like in the bubble, right? And so you're speaking live to them. So they get the link and watch the video. That was a winner chicken dinner. Like so many people were impressed that you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And we're very specific. It wasn't like, hey, somebody like you. It's, hey, I'm on your website and you're performing
Truly personalized.
below average. Yeah, I like the phrase, show them you know them.
Yeah, right.
So if you can show them you know them, that was just an example of pivoting during COVID. But
Oh, I like that. That's great. And so you may have a book in you. That's great. And you're been a successful individual contributor and you live a nice life where you can still ski, right? Because you're
yes, I'm in Park
Utah.
City.
Yep.
Yep.
Lovely. That's great. That you shared a little bit about where you've been. And I would wonder, do you mind if people connect with you on LinkedIn or?
Of course. Surely.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just look for Karen Keating.
Yep.
That's
Karen.
K's. Karen with the K, Keating with the K. Right. And Karen's at Salesforce right now. And we really appreciate your time and look forward to all the things that are ahead for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conversations with Women in Sales. You can find all of our episodes at womensalespros.com/podcast. Help us spread the word and let's change the face of B2B sales.